Good afternoon. You know what time it is. It's coffee time. That's right, with Michael Sanchez. How's everyone doing today on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon? Late afternoon, that is. Anyway, it's been an awesome day. Beautiful day. Anyway, I look forward to talking to author Truant D. Memphis. He is the author of the book titled The Boy Who Fell from the Past. I find that interesting title. And I'm going to talk to Truant to learn more about him. And also, I got my pal here. I got Dale Phillips as well. He's going to be here and join us in a little while I talk to Truant. And we could have some great questions and whatnot as well. So see if we can get Truant in here. Hey, Truant, you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you nice and clear. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Where are you calling from, Truant?
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky. How's the weather? How's the pollen over there? Is it killing you guys or what?
yeah, yeah. It's awesome. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
My
Yeah.
car is covered in a thin green layer.
Oh man, you guys haven't gotten any rain over there, or what? Is it dry as a bone?
We got a little bit last week, but not a lot. No.
They keep teasing it. They be like, "Yeah, clouds are coming. Yeah, no, no, it's killing me." Anyway,
No.
all right. I've had you here before, and that was an awesome interview. The last we talked, and now you got this title here, "The Boy Who Fell from the Past." I find that interesting. You want to tell the audience a little bit about what it's about without giving too much away?
Sure thing. It's a novella, and it's a time travel story where Truant is a 16-year-old Truant is also a character in the story as well as the pseudonym I'm publishing under. Um, and so it's just a passage of a brief travel to the future that Truant takes on his journeys, and he falls in with a father and son gunslingers that have escaped a futuristic feudal Detroit.
Hmm.
Um, and so it just, like I said, it's a 100-page novella that is basically just a passage, but it introduces characters that I'm revisiting in an upcoming full-length novel.
Interesting. Now, how long has this concept been on your mind before you started writing it?
Well, it's funny enough. It was originally part of the first manuscript I ever wrote, which I did not published. I have not published, but I thought it was kind of the best section of that manuscript, so I cut it out and edited it and did quite a few changes to it to kind of make it stand on its own. And then, like I said, published it as a novella, I believe back in 2021, but it's currently in production as an audiobook. So
Okay,
released as an audiobook later this year.
gotcha, gotcha. And in what era does this take place?
So the novel takes place in the 31st century. It's like
Ah,
3087, I believe.
why that
Um,
number?
why that number?
Yes.
Um, it's there was some thought process into it because I was trying to come up with several, far enough into the future that the world that I've kind of created could potentially happen.
Right.
Um, as far as like cities in the United States, well, the United States kind of falling apart and major cities becoming like feudal territories. So I just wanted to set it far enough into the future that enough things could have happened that the world that I've created could potentially exist. Um, Truant, the character, has traveled forward in time from like the 1990s
Hmm.
into this world, many centuries later. And so it's, he's completely out of element.
Yeah, yeah. You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how is he getting from point A to B? What kind of instrument is he using to get there?
It's basically an interdimensional portal that they play a part in one of my other novels that's available, Daffodil. So it's a, portals are nothing new, but I introduced them in the Truant Memphis universe as they you don't really it's a reflection of the chaos of existence. Going through one of the portals, you basically don't know where you're going to wind up, and they it could be an alternate reality, it could be your reality in the future or the past, so they just kind of send you wherever. And I'm continuing to play with them as I write more in this universe, but I haven't really put parameters on them as far as, like, there's no hard and fast. They take you to, specific places or anything like that. There doesn't appear to be any control mechanism for them. And I'm exploring the science behind them in the upcoming, the work in progress I have, that's going to be kind of a sequel to this novella. But
Right.
I haven't really explained the science behind them.
Very interesting. I got Dale Phillips here. I got a question or two. Hey, Dale, you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you nice and clear. You have a question here for our guest?
Perfect. Um, what attracts you about time travel stories, and what would you say are a top couple of the ones that you really enjoy, either in books or in movies or television?
Oh wow. Ha. So, it's always fun to play with. There's the whole paradox of time travel and the things that have been explored previously, like butterfly effect and the ability to, and changing the past and how it potentially affects the future, et cetera, et cetera. And so I decided to play with the notion of traveling to the future um, in this story, because I didn't really want to get bogged down or deal with the whole possibility of going to the past and how it might change things. So I thought it would be more fun to play with having the character wind up in the future, and kind of and it also allowed for me to play with some of those either dystopian or utopian ideas of what might happen uh, to our reality in the future. Um, so it was just one of those things where it's almost tropey, right, to want to play with time travel. Um, so I love playing with, um, tropes and just, you know convention conventions that get used in fiction writing and stuff. So it was just when I was working on the original manuscript that I pulled this novella from, it was basically just a sci-fi fantasy adventure of this teenage boy, Truant Memphis. And as I was writing that original manuscript, I reached a point where I had these characters that I had created, and I decided to have Truant meet them. So it started out as just this futuristic story about the father and son gunslinger, and then I wound up making them a part of Truant's existence.
Very interesting. Very interesting. How long did it take you to write this short novella?
Um, wow. So the original manuscript that I had included it in, that I pulled it from, I had been writing stories and taking notes on that for several years. And then by the time I sat down to actually write the manuscript, I had so much material that I was able to put the manuscript together, the first draft, in a couple of months. Then back, you know, during I guess 4 or 5 years ago, when I decided to publish this section as a novella, I probably worked on it for about 6 months, rewriting it and tweaking it and cleaning it and trying to get it, to a really clean, publishable, stands on its own, novella.
Interesting. Gail, you got something? Gail, you got a question?
Yeah. What do you like about some of the time travel stories that have been out there?
Oh, sorry.
Got any
Yeah, yeah.
favorites?
I didn't get to the second part of the question.
We figured we'd
So
get to you at some point.
yeah, so I tend to like, because of the paradox of time travel, and like, I'm a big fan of comic book movies because I grew up reading comic books, so I loved, the Marvel Infinity Wars and Endgame. I like the way they try to deal with the time travel, that I don't know that I necessarily agree with how they manage the whole, not changing the past thing. To be honest with you, I believe Austin Powers, I think it's the second one or the third one where they travel back in time. I love the tongue in cheek fashion in which they deal with it, which is basically, look, you can't think about it too much. Just go with it. Kind of. So, it's I don't really get into that much in the novella. It's just, this is what happens, and I don't try to explain it. But again, because he's in the future, I didn't have to mess with the whole, is he potentially changing things by having gone to the past, right? Like, I didn't have to play with that, or worry about that. But no, I it's just one of those things that I'm just fascinated by, whether or not it could ever be a real thing. I personally think time is linear. The whole flat circle thing just kind of melts my brain, so I don't think about it
There you go.
too much. So I've kind of developed a little bit of a philosophy where I feel like you can't. I think that time is indeed linear, and that if you go back, if you think that you've somehow changed today by doing something in the past, what you've really done is just created the alternate reality, which is kind of like that splinter effect that they talked about in Endgame, and I'm sure other time travel stories as well.
Interesting. I got someone else here by the name of Apex. You got a question there? Apex, you there? Hello. He's there. He or
I got a
she is
question
there.
for you, Mike. Are you still having coffee?
You know what? I calmed down on it thanks to you. Yeah, I chilled out a little bit. I put you know, less grounds, if you will, on it, and kind of cut back on it, but it's still good. Good stuff. I still
I
drink
That's
my cups.
I
that's
just brewed
grounds
a
for improvement.
Yeah, I just brewed a fresh cup for the show. I thought it was required.
Oh, it is. It is.
What is it? The caffeinated, or is it that real? That espresso.
Oh no, it's the real deal.
Oh, there you go. There you go. See,
Yeah.
Gail. See, he knows what to drink. None of that.
Yeah, but at this time of day, he's got to add a little something, something to it.
Right.
Apex,
Hey,
you
this
there?
is
Apex?
yeah, this is Nate. I just logged in. I think you guys were maybe hollering at me
Oh,
earlier.
Nate. Yeah, I don't see your name there, so I didn't know if
Yeah,
it.
it's a generic name. I just signed up for the app, but I've read some of the author stuff, and I had a question about like how what's the difference? You were talking earlier about choosing a story that started in the future, so you wouldn't have to play with established constructs of the past and time travel, and how that differs for you in your mind. Like you obviously you draw a line between past and or present and future and present and past. So what made that more appealing, present to future, about this story
Great.
with you?
Well, I will be honest with you. A huge part of the decision. Well, I had established this idea of the father and son gunslingers in a futuristic kind of post-apocalyptic, U.S. territories escaping a feudal Detroit. So some of it was already baked in. That I wanted these characters published and then out in the world, and so having Truant go through a portal and meet them in the future, it was already kind of baked in that he would go to the because I had invented these characters that existed in the future. Uh, but again, it just from an author standpoint, not wanting to deal with like all the paradox of going to the past, it was much more comfortable for me to write going to the future because I could send Truant back to his present without any care or concern of having changed something in his present. So it just made it, I didn't have to worry about any reader going, but he did this and now it's going to change his, you know what I mean? So some of it was just baked in, but in general, for me, if I was to explore time travel in other stories, I do like the notion of going to the future instead of the past, just so I don't have to try to explain how time travel works if you go to the past and mess something up or, I guess you could say it's almost it's just easier, but also just it just avoids stuff that dozens, if not hundreds of other screenwriters and novelists have talked about or tried to explain previously.
All with difficulty.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh, well, Truant, I've got one question that intrigues me. When you say gunslingers, that immediately calls to mind Stephen King's The Dark Tower, and I wonder if a little bit is homage to that sort of thing.
100%. I'm not gonna lie. So the son is named Jake, which is an homage.
Okay.
An homage to Jake from the Gunslingers. But I tried to stay away, and of course, there's portals in the Gunslinger series as well.
Right.
But it's a very, outside of it being an homage that hopefully some people would pick up on just because of the name. It's I stayed away from any trying to do any sort of plotline stuff or anything. Obviously I don't want to be a hack, but those are my favorite Stephen King stories. So when I decided to name the son Jake, it was absolutely an homage to the Gunslinger.
Very nice.
Now, Truant, that Dale is a student of Mr. King, so yeah, he knows a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like I waited. I started the Gunslinger series when I was a teenager in high school, and had to wait for years to finish it. And I absolutely love it. Like I don't read a lot of Stephen King anymore, but up until that point, I felt like it was the best stuff he'd ever done.
Interesting. Nate, you there? Nate, you there?
Nate comes and goes.
I'll put him back on mute. That's very interesting. So, how long has the book been out?
So this was released in the fall of 2022. And it actually, when it hit, it's a young adult. So it's the only thing I wanted to put something out there that was approachable for young adults because my stuff is written for adults usually. And so I wanted something nice and clean because when I sell books, I get a lot of people that'll ask if like kids can read it. Up until that point, I was like, I really need to put something out there. So it was released in 2022. It actually hit number 4 on the young adult action adventure list on Ingram Spark, which, believe it or not, doesn't require that many copies sold, but it was still a big mark. It was a benchmark for me. So like, and then, I got into audiobooks a little over a year ago. I put a couple out there, and I wanted another one. So the same narrator that narrated my book Daffodil is currently, working on the audiobook production of this one. So it's not a brand new title in print, but it will, it'll be a new release in my audiobook bibliography, I guess, if you will.
Interesting, because
Truant,
I
are
was
you
going to
using
ask you when you can get
ACX to
trained
produce
out.
your
Yeah.
audiobooks?
I'm sorry, I couldn't. I got.
Go ahead, Dale.
Are
Go
you
ahead.
using ACX to produce your audiobooks?
So I did for my first two, and my narrator's name is Ron Gabaldon. He's fantastic. He and I are currently just producing this one, and then still kind of just I'm still debating whether or not I'll do an exclusive list on ACX or whether or not we're gonna we're gonna produce it, publish it through a couple of different sites.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of trying to weigh the benefits and the negatives of going exclusively ACX or doing a broader distribution.
Yeah, that's the
How did you,
question
how did
now
you
is
find
what
it?
are the best places?
What are the best places?
Yeah, that's the question for authors now. Is it
Yeah,
better to
yeah,
go
yeah, for
wide or
sure.
better to be exclusive?
Yeah, so I really like the fact that ACX gives you all those free codes.
Oh yeah.
Because I do think like it brings people to your author page and then can potentially sell, if they like the book that they got a free code for, they might buy one of your others. But at the same time, the notion of it being available in libraries, if I distribute through some of the other audiobook publishing places, is really cool too, because like all of my ebooks are, available through libraries. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, Dale. I'm just
Right.
trying to weigh the positives and the negatives, and it might be a thing where I explore broader distribution and then decide that, you can't decide without trying, I guess.
That's right. You got to experiment.
Yeah.
Hey, Eva, I got Eva calling from the UK. How's it going, Eva?
Hi, Michael. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, you're good. You have a question or two for our guest, Truant?
Sorry, I don't know what's been going on,
Ah,
Michael.
well, it's nice to have you here. That's what happens when you're late. No, no.
Do you want the truth? Do you want the truth why I'm late?
Why are you late?
I'm ashamed to say I fell asleep.
Ah, you see? Dale, I know Dale got something to say about that.
No, time flows differently where she lives.
It certainly does.
Yeah, she had a portal and she went through it and had to take a nap because it just exhausted her.
Oh, man. Dale's brutal. We miss you, Dale. We did miss you. We're glad to have
Well,
you
I
back.
thank you, and I hope your aim doesn't improve.
Well, I mean, to be fair, sleep is basically time travel.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
You go unconscious and you wake up and you're in a different time completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So true.
I like to think of all of my sleeps as mini comas.
Mini coma.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, think of it as death rehearsals.
that's not gonna happen, True. You've been drinking all that espresso or whatever you're drinking there.
Yeah, that's true.
So, so who published your book?
I completely independently publish all of my titles to this point. Um, I sought traditional publishing for my most recent title that you and I discussed last fall, Saving Maria, and I wound up with some offers from some, smaller indie houses. And after, a lot of thought and stuff and contract reviews and things like that, I just decided to publish it myself. I've created a publishing, like, uh TDM Inc. is like my publishing brand. Um So I kind of like, as far as traditional publishing is concerned, moving for any of my titles that are ready. When it comes time to publish them, I'm really seeking you know either a larger indie house, or of course the dream of traditional publishing through a major publisher at some point. But I hire you know professional editors through Reedsy, and professional like interior designers to format the books and make them look professional and all that stuff. The covers are kind of lo-fi, but that was a bit of a branding thing for in-person sales. I thought the black on white created this like stark contrast to help draw people to my tables, and I do the artwork for them and stuff, so I like doing the drawings. So um so yeah, they're all professionally made with you know people that I hire to package them and put them together for me, but I which costs a good bit of money, but obviously I want my product to be as professional as possible. But to this point, I purchase all the ISBNs and do all the publishing myself.
Gotcha. Did you learn anything new, anything surprising when you were writing or creating this book?
Yeah. So one of the things I figured out is that novellas themselves can be a little tricky because it's short form, and I wanted it to be good. Obviously, I wanted it to be an entertaining read, but I also kind of it this novella was intended to just simply be a passage, so it's kind of got a shock to the system ending to it that I can admit that I got some feedback from readers that they were like, more, I want more. And I was like, I'm sorry, this is what it is. Um, I also discovered that when you sell a time travel story that's literary fiction, there are some folks that were expecting it to be more straightforward, hard sci-fi, which it isn't really what it is. It was intended to be literary science fiction for young adults. Um, so and it's written in a weird Truant is telling a story about himself. He's the narrator is an older version of Truant, selling or telling a story about his younger self, so it's written in a weird first person, second person, or whatever. I don't even know the perspective is a little strange, and that was tricky to try to write and make sure people understood like how the story was being told. Um, so that was a little tricky.
Interesting. Dale, you got a question?
Well, I was wondering now, once this comes out, when you have people saying, more, please,
Hmm.
are you going to jump right in and do more?
Yeah. So I'm about 75 pages into a work in progress that revisits the characters that are introduced in this novella, but they're from a slightly alternate reality. So it's not the exact version of the father and son that Truant meets. And in the
Hmm.
work in progress, Truant so there's a different character that winds up falling in with the father and son, as like kind of like a cosmological like space filler. Like instead of Truant falling in with them, this other character falls in with them. So it's a little tricksy. Like it's the same characters from a slightly alternate reality, but they are getting a follow up. There's going to be a full length book about them.
Interesting. Ava, you following? You have a question?
No, I still haven't caught up, Michael. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
But
Dale, you got a
I'm
follow up?
interested in listening anyway.
Yeah, it sounds interesting though, right? This time travel stuff. Truant, you prefer to go back in time or forward?
Oh, definitely forward to this point. I've written a couple of short stories dealing with going backwards in the past, and it all winds up just being this logic loop because I can't, I'm trying to develop my own little personal author philosophy about how traveling back in time works. And it's just such it's open-ended to this point. I haven't I started writing these little blog posts, the rules of time travel, kind of as a joke. Um, but no, it's definitely more attractive to go forward and not have to mess with all that gobbledygook. But maybe at some point I'll challenge myself a little more and send one of my characters back in time and deal with all that contrivance.
As long as you don't mess around with that grandfather paradox, everything's okay.
Right.
You ever see what is it? What is it? The Umbrella Academy ended up doing that. It was
Oh
extreme.
yeah, I loved that
Yeah.
show.
Yes, it was a pretty neat show. But yeah, you don't think about that stuff. But what if you go back in time and you get rid of so and so and so? Then how do you exist? How does it work?
Right,
That's very
right.
interesting. Dale, what say you?
Well, they say that's what creates the multiverse is there are parallel universes, and every time you change something in a past, you have created a split timeline, and that is another world where things are almost the same but not quite. And Truant, I got to say, kudos to you for striking out on your own, doing it properly, getting the team that you want, paying for professional advice and work to get a quality product out. That's top notch.
Oh well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and it's been one of those things where over the years, I've invested more and more into my books, and geez, at some point, I'm afraid the IRS is going to come after me and audit me because they're like, you you
Oh man,
you're claiming all these expenditures. Where's the profit? And I'm like, there's no profit for artists.
There's no
that's
profit.
true. That's true, man.
Yeah.
That's true. Sometimes I get shamed when I go to the IRS and do my paperwork, and here you go, and they're looking at me like, why did you even bother? I mean,
Right.
but you got to show it. Got to
Because
show it.
show your work.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got to show it. So
Right.
anyway, so you have any suggestions to help folks who are trying to write this kind of stories to be better at the craft? Do you have any suggestions?
Oh wow. My number one thing that I try to stick to is to have a routine. Um, it was advice given to me when I was young, and I mentioned wanting to be a writer to like I was hanging out at a bar with some friends, and I just happened to be with this lady who had written a novel, and she was like, have a routine. And of course, I've seen it numerous times since then but I do feel like if you have a routine and you're going to write the same time every week or every day, I do feel like it triggers your brain, like it programs your brain to be prepared to be creative. So I think that helps. I also think that you just can't, you have to, allow yourself to not get freaked out by like the notion of writer's block or something like that. I think people get stressed when they can't move forward. And once you allow that stress to creep in, then it's just going to make it that much harder to get going again. So, a big rule for myself is to just sometimes, if it's not coming out, you just got to let it simmer and not try to force it and just allow it to be in the back of your mind all the time. And then of course the old read as much as possible, read the type of stuff that you want to write, you know, um, and read a lot of different authors so that you don't accidentally just start stealing some author's voice, as opposed to your author voice being amalgam of all these things that you've read. Uh, and then, I guess it's kind of cheesy, but just write with like reckless abandon, don't be afraid to say whatever you will. And, If it doesn't work, you can fix it in editing, especially
Yeah, you can always edit it later. That's right. Chop block.
yeah,
Yes. Yes. Well, great advice.
especially if you have good friends and readers that will tell you the truth about things they don't like, that's
Yeah.
invaluable. Um,
Well, that's
so
what I was going to ask you. So you've had that book out now for over 2 years now. You get a lot of feedback from readers?
I did. I got a fair amount. I put this one out. I put it out to like on a book tour, um, and there were I got quite a few like this wasn't what I was hoping it would be because again they were hoping for more of just like hard sci-fi. But I like it when people critique my work in the reviews. That's I just because you have to have a thick skin, but also be open to uh, to the things that people say they don't like about it because it informs your work moving forward. But at the same time, you also kind of got to stick to your guns. I guess it's a fine line, right, between what you as the creator want something to be and what the audience was hoping something might be. I remember the first time I saw the movie The Fifth Element, I was a little disappointed because I thought it was just going to be more of a straightforward action flick. But
That's a
but
good feeling.
but in hindsight, I absolutely love that movie.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I was a teenager the first time I saw it, and I was a little kind of like, oh, because it was a Bruce Willis flick, and I just thought it was going to be a straight up action movie. But, you know, over the years, I absolutely love that movie, and I love the fact that it wasn't what I wanted it to be the first time I saw it, because what it is just, I just think it's great. So,
Yeah, yeah. So Ava, Truant mentioned the reviews. What say you about that?
Sorry, Michael, I'm not hearing you very clearly.
Truant mentioned the issue with the reviews. What do you think about that? We talked about that a couple times. What do you say?
Oh, right. Um, sorry, with me just having recently woke up, I'm still not quite here. Um,
Somebody give her some coffee or
There you go. Hey, look at the title. It's coffee time.
yeah. Or
Michael,
you're
I
in the
can't.
or some really strong tea, right?
some
You're in the
Hey, don't go with the cliches now. Just
couple tea
right
bags
out of the
there, a
gate.
couple tea bags.
I honestly couldn't drink coffee at this time, and it's 10:30 at night here.
oh my
Come
gosh.
on now. You put a little milk in there, it'll be all right. Dale, you got anything there for our guest?
Yes, about reviews, the thing some writers don't even read them because if they say you're great, you'll go, "Oh, that's nice," but you'll read 99 good ones and then you'll
Yeah,
get one bad one and you'll
yeah.
focus on the bad one. That is the way our brain works. And then you'll start second guessing yourself and oh god, there's just people out there that don't like anything, So just ignore them.
That,
Yeah.
that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
Yeah. What would Jeff say if he was here? Hey, miss Jeff. He'll come up with some crazy. Good old Jeff. That's
Jeff's
really cool.
already asleep.
Truant, that's one of he comes around, one of my guests, and he's pretty comical. He comes up, he's original. Definitely
Nice.
original. So, what other books are you planning on? Right, you said you were working on one now. How much
Mm-hmm.
longer do you think?
Well, I haven't worked on it in months, to be perfectly frank, because I was publishing last year and then marketing. Um, but my hope is to get back to it soon. And again, I'm probably about a third of the way through a first draft because it's about, I don't know, 25,000 words right now. And it'll probably be, 80 is my hope when once finished. Um, but after I work on it, I have so I have like the Truant Memphis universe where Truant is a character, and then I have 2 other titles that I've published that where I just use Truant as a pseudonym, and they live in a different universe. That's Little Thumb Sneezed and Saving Maria. And so after I work on finish this current work in progress, then I'd like to shift back to the Little Thumb Brooks universe and work on another story with those characters. So that's my hope, and I would love to get a first draft of what's tentatively being titled The Human Traits. I would love to get the first draft of that done, this year.
Interesting. I get asked, how do I know when I'm finished with a story? I'm going to ask you, how do you know when you're finished with it? Is it instinct? Is it what? Is it you're looking for?
Oh, it's when I type the end and cry. That's how I know it's done. Is when I type
Now,
the end and then I
so
sit there and I cry because you have all the
he cried.
yeah.
It's funny you say that because I had just finished a manuscript a couple days ago, and I had a couple tears because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm done with the character. What am I doing?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
I get I get teared up at the end of all of them. There's so much hope pent up in it, right? Like you've got so much hope for this story that you're creating that it's good, and who knows if this will be the one that I sell that, makes me a real boy as an author. So I do get choked up, but my process usually involves knowing the ending. So I know where I'm trying to get, or I can't keep moving forward. What
right.
gets me bogged down is the middle. I've usually got a beginning and an end when I start it, and it's the getting from point A to point Z, uh, where I sometimes write myself into a corner, or I get tripped up. So I've typically got a vision for the ending, or I can't even get started.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I get where you're coming from with that, Dale. I'm exactly the same. I always know how my story is going to start. I always know how it's going to end. I know a few of the key factors that I want to include in the middle of it, but it's the knitting them all together that
Mm-hmm.
that's the difficult part.
That's
Yep.
interesting because Dale doesn't have he doesn't have a soul. He don't care. Dale doesn't care.
Everybody gets stuck in the middle. It's like I gotta cross from this firm shoreline to the other firm shoreline through the swamp, and you always get stuck in the swamp.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Yeah,
I'm yeah, yeah. I'm kind of like a hybrid pantser slash plotter.
Same.
I don't uh, I tend to outline as I go, so that like once I've got something written, then I add that to the outline, and then
yeah,
I
that's
may
me.
have go ahead.
That's me.
Yeah, yeah. And then I might come up with some future ideas and add them to the outline and be like, okay, I'm going to try to get here if I can, you know?
Yeah,
But in general, I'm definitely not like a hard have the whole thing outlined when I start. Like I can't, I don't do that to myself because that's just, I feel like I would tie myself up in knots trying to make it happen. Uh, so yeah, I'm kind of one of those hybrid planters.
yeah, me too.
Interesting. So,
Me
do
too.
you normally write the outlines for all your books, or just occasionally?
Like I outline them as I go. When I'm starting one, if I've got a bunch of notes on it, so I've got ideas, I'll plot all that, I'll put that stuff in an outline. But again, it is not a hard outline and it is not a full outline. It's just kind of like it changes as it goes.
Yeah,
Um,
because
so
sometimes you'll find your characters want they've got a different plan to what your plan was anyway.
right, right. Yeah, Now, I will admit though, I don't understand the authors that are complete pantsers that just let the story tell itself. That I don't I just don't know how that works. But no, there's definitely times when I've had to let go of something that I really wanted in a book because I realized it just wasn't going to happen and it just didn't fit, you know. Uh,
Mhm.
so I did, and that's hard. Letting go of ideas that you think would be really cool, but they just don't. They're not going to fit the rest of the stuff you have. Can be hard for me. But it took a while for me to learn to let things go. Uh, but that kind of came with like learning to love editing. I used to the idea of editing, was super daunting early on, but at some point I finally forced myself to really really edit a book over and over and over again and wound up falling in love with it. So there's yeah, I've learned to kill my darlings. It
Ah.
it sucks, but it just
So how do you get your information? How much research do you do before you start writing these novels or novella?
not I don't do a ton up front. That's actually one of the ways that I deal with writer's blocks sometimes is if I'm having trouble putting the next paragraph down, then I'll spend some time reading and doing research. One of my favorite parts of working on a manuscript or even in the editing process is learning like weird random things just to make this just pepper the story with like, and I might spend 3 hours one day researching some subject just for it to be a one sentence punchline, just to make just to make a joke work exactly the way that I want it to. And I really enjoy learning like crazy, weird, random facts to make a joke work or to make a really small plot point work.
Interesting. Ava, you got a question?
Sorry,
You have a question?
sorry, Michael. You seem very, very distant. I can hear Dale
Oh,
really
hello.
clearly,
Can you hear
and
me
you
now?
seem to be so distant.
Oh, Michael hasn't had his coffee.
Can y'all hear me now, guys? Can you hear me?
I
Maybe
can
it's
hear
something
you
with this.
better now. Yes.
Can you hear me better now? All right. You have a question for our guest? Another? Something? Has the tea kicked in yet?
You've faded off again. You've
Well, he was
Anyway.
being he was just being mean. Don't worry about it.
Well, Michael
It's,
has a tin can on a string, and you got to really shout to get it through.
so Truant, if folks wanted to find you, where can they find you, Truant?
They can find my titles pretty much anywhere you can buy books. Like, although I'm on Amazon. Everything's on. They can find my audiobooks on Audible, um, Barnes and Noble, any of the major booksellers. You can order my books through them because they are set up for wholesale distribution. You can find me on Libby and like your library apps. My ebooks should be available in your local public library. Um,
Okay.
and then bookshop.org, which I like a lot because of the way they donate to local bookstores. But I recently discovered that like a couple of my titles aren't showing as available there. And that's a Ingram Spark thing where I have to go tell them to resend my titles to the website. But in general, pretty much anywhere, Kobo, pretty much anywhere you can buy books online, or you can go into your local bookstore and ask them to order it, which is awesome. And any independent author whose books are available wholesale, dear readers, they'll love you for forever if you go to the local bookstore and ask them to order a copy for you.
Yeah, that
Because
is
that
pretty.
just it helps boost our profile and boost our sales.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Now, what would you say? Would you prefer to have maybe the opportunity to have books on the shelf? What's the
Oh, I mean, I would. I would literally kill to have my books on the shelf.
Me too.
No.
Me too.
I mean, it would be absolutely amazing. I do know that a few of my books have been purchased wholesale and wound up on bookshelves. Because you can see sometimes like who's purchased your book. So it's happened, but broad distribution actually being on bookshelves would be amazing. And I continue to plow forward, hoping to achieve that someday. So that's the author's dream, is to be able to walk into a store and see their book on the shelf, right? So
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Still to this day, I still look. Every time I go to the Walmarts or whatever, I still look just to see if maybe they made a mistake and put my book on the shelf. Hey, you never know.
Well, Truant, I do have to say that you can do it. I mean, I distribute strictly through Amazon, and yet by forming relationships with bookstores, even Barnes and Nobles here, you can get your books on shelves. It takes
awesome.
work. There's not a lot of profit, but there's the joy of seeing it on a shelf along with the thousands of other titles spine out.
Yeah.
Right. That's the dream, like, again, if I did this for profit, I would have thrown myself off a bridge
Yeah.
several years ago.
You're not doing
But
it for profit. You're doing
yeah,
it because it's art and
yeah,
you're creating. That's
and
what's
it,
important. And you don't
no,
need anybody in Manhattan, a stranger in Manhattan, patting you on the head and waving the magic wand to say you're an author. You're already an author and you're already doing the right things. That's what's important.
well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And same to you. Uh, but yeah, and last year was a banner year. Actually, last year was the most royalties that I'd ever received, and a lot of it was the audiobooks.
Nice.
Uh,
Yep.
the audiobooks, I felt like they helped boost the sale of the paperbacks and the ebooks too.
Yes, it's all part of the distribution plan.
Yep. So it was a market that I knew I had to get into that market. It just took a while because that's just how
But you
things
didn't give
go.
up. Yeah, you didn't give up. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. You didn't give up. Truant, it was awesome having you back, man, and I want to thank you for coming back. It's pretty
Well,
cool.
thanks so much for inviting me back. It was a blast last time. It was a blast this time. I appreciate the exposure, and in general, I just appreciate what you're doing with the podcast and having people on and giving them a chance to talk about their books.
Thank you much. I'll send you this audio so you can share it with everybody else. And again, man, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I will absolutely share it. I appreciate that, and I'll try to get as many folks to click that download button as possible.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right,
Well, have a good
Dale, it's
one.
nice to meet you, and Ava.
Yep. Nice
Yep.
to meet you
Nice
too.
to meet you as well.
Awesome. All right, Truant. Well, you have a good one, and until next time, man.
You too. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All
What do
right.
you think, guys? What do you think about Truant's work? What you say?
He's definitely
Dale.
on the right path.
Yes, yes. I found that interesting. Yes, interesting work. Interesting work. What say you, Eva?
Well, as I say, since I was asleep for part of it, I, I, I didn't really get caught up there, but it was nice listening anyway.
Yes. Well, he has a great attitude. You know what I mean? And like I said, you just got to keep moving forward. And that's the whole idea. And you can't come into this field thinking that you're going to be rich. That's not what it's about. It's
Oh
about
no, definitely not.
your passion, your writing. Like Dale said, you're an author, no matter what. You know what I mean? Whether it
Definitely.
goes to the bookshelf or not, you're an author.
Yeah.
What say you, Dale?
Yes, that's the thing. And again, it is possible to get your books on the shelf. It may not increase your sales a great deal, but if that's your goal, it is an achievable goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. One day, somebody will mess up, and put my book on the shelf. I'll be jumping for joy. Everybody will know I'm the author. That's great.
Well, Michael, you just need to read my book, How to Be a Successful Indie Author.
I'm going to have to do that. Yes. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
do
It's got
that.
instructions in there to tell you how to do it.
There you go. Well, I'm going to have to do that because, dang it, I got to see myself in the bookshelf somewhere in some bookstore. You never
It's a
know.
Yeah,
nice
me
feeling.
too.
If
Me
I ever
too.
see it, I'll take the photograph and I'll send it to you guys. Look, hey! Anyway, you guys have been great. I want to thank you again. I appreciate it. Got a show this coming, what is it, Thursday at 10 a.m. if y'all want to join in. It'll be a good one, I think. I look forward to that. So if y'all want to join me then at 10 a.m.
I'll be at the doctor.
You'll be at the
I
doctor.
yeah. Well, I'm doing a book fair. I'm
Ah,
doing book
okay.
fair Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
You and you yourself, or you gonna have to be with several authors?
No, I live in a county called Yorkshire, and
Ah,
we've got a group called Promoting Yorkshire Authors. There's quite a lot of us in Yorkshire are authors, um, but not many of us do the book fair scene. Probably about 35 to 40 authors. Um, you know, pick and choose which book fairs we want to do.
all right, cool. Well, it's been a great show. I want to thank again Truant Memphis for coming in, talk about his work, "The Boy Who Fell from the Past." Not an interesting title, especially since he's always talking about the future, always forward. That's interesting.
Yeah,
So hope you guys out there, check them out. Check them out on Amazon, those other
will
sites you
do.
mentioned. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. It sounds. I really enjoyed talking to him. Good, good attitude, positive attitude. We need stuff like that, people like that. Motivate others, to succeed in the craft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, it's been great. Dale, you
Thank you, Michael.
thank you. Hope Dale, that whatever you happen with the doctor's office is all good.
Yeah, I want them to fix my knee. I have a terribly
Ah,
torn meniscus, and I want to stop the pain and be able to walk again. So fix
there
it.
you
Fix
go.
it.
It's happening to me now lately. It's not good. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I can't
It's
stand
not good
it.
at all.
No, age is creeping up. That's for sure.
It's not for sissies.
No, it's definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, you have a good one, and until next time, you know
All
what I say.
right. Okay, Michael. Nice to
Don't
talk
forget
to
your
you,
coffee and
Dale.
your tea. Yeah.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Okay,
Wow.
bye. Bye.
Great show. Great show. Great guests. They're all cool. Again, I want to thank Truant Memphis for coming in to talk about his work. He was pretty cool. I enjoyed talking to him. Maybe I'll bring him back again once he gets another book out there. So, anyway, I want to thank everyone for listening in. Please share this podcast, this show, at polyboycanine.podbean.com. Share it with everybody, your friends, and talk about it. It's good. It's a good one, I think. And again, I'm here to help others. We're thinking about writing a book or are writing a book, but they're having issues, trying to move forward with it. This was all about to help them out, you know what I mean? All positive. It's all good. Anyway, you know what I say? Have a good one and don't forget your coffee. It's been a good one. Have a good one, guys.